Shall we begin?
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the More Than Just Keto podcast. This is episode number 25. I am one of your hosts, Ashley.
Hey, everybody. I am your other host, Molly, and we want to talk about something today that both Ashley and myself have recently experienced, and that is plateaus.
Yes, I think there's probably just as much chatter about plateaus as there is with getting started, with the meal plans and the direction that they want to take their diets. Like, this is something that we know can happen. We try to avoid from happening, and oftentimes don't know how to get out of once
Right.
we've hit this kind of wall that is the plateau or the stall or the break in the possible success that you've had up until this point.
Right. And we see it a lot in our community. People will be on such a roll, and the people that, there's some that share a lot, and they'll talk about their weight drops and the scale drops, and it's dropping and it's dropping and it's dropping. And then all of a sudden it's not dropping anymore. And I'll be honest with you, Ashley, I've never experienced it up until recently.
Me either, actually, until the last few months. I want to say summer was when I was
Right.
consistently losing up until about that point. And I definitely learned that having a pause in your weight loss for a couple weeks is not the same as actually being in a stall.
Right.
That is a completely different thing. And even in previous times, I have realized when I thought maybe I was kind of hitting a plateau that I really wasn't, because there was still movement overall. What you and I have been going through in the last few months is literally the yo-yo game, up and down, up and down, up and down,
Those 2
within the
pounds.
same pounds.
Yeah.
And it's just consistent, without a lot of changes. When you come to a halt, that's really what signifies that plateau, is that you've been doing your calorie deficit, you have been following the meal plan or whatever you put in place for yourself, you're getting your physical activity or whatever it is, whatever your plan was that was working, all of a sudden just stops.
Seems like it stopped working. What happened for me is I was steadily losing all of 2020, January, February, March, April, May, June, July. I mean, kept going down, as it does, in a nice trending fashion, green. And then all of a sudden, like you said, it was just at the end of summer, right around my birthday, it kind of stopped. And then it kind of just stayed straight. And then it started steadily going up. So not only did I hit that plateau, it just kind of stayed after that, just kind of going up. Like you said, those same 2 to 3 pounds, but that does cause the trend to start going up. If it's,
if you stay on that trajectory, yes, of course.
Exactly. And that's what I did. So October, November, December, it stayed that way. And I'm like, what in the world? So January came, and it's like, it's the beginning of the year and you're getting serious again.
You got a lot of gusto.
Right. Maybe I was
a lot of pizzazz behind them.
A little lax during the holidays. Maybe I ate a little bit more, whatever. So it's like, okay, I'm going to get serious. So I thought I did in January, but guess what? I was still up, in the plateau. It was still the same
numbers over and over and over again.
Over and over and over again. So
within a few pounds. Yeah.
Right. So what I did is finally I checked back over all my data, and I figured out what had changed. And what had changed is my activity level had gone down at the end of the year. I was no longer the active, burning all
that
those
you were counting
calories
for in your app. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But I was eating the same. So I was eating the same, but I wasn't burning the same.
Less,
so I was bringing it in, but I wasn't putting it out like I was before. So it wasn't like I was surplus. It wasn't like I was overeating, not moving like that. It wasn't a gain. I wouldn't say I had a gain. I had a couple pound gain, but it wasn't like a substantial gain. It was just more of the plateau. And so what I did is, because I had everything there, I was able to go back and I saw that's what. So I changed February and I brought my activity level up. and I was down. I finally broke my plateau, and now I'm moving forward, and I feel like it's kind of broken now, and I'm like, I figured out what it was. It wasn't some mysterious thing that just all of a sudden happened. There was an actual reason. And I think that's important because there's always going to be a reason, right? There's a reason.
Right. To your point, the way you figured this out was because you tracked. And so this is one of those situations where you have to kind of reflect on what you're doing currently. So it's going to be very hard to label whatever you're going through as a plateau or as a stall without having some sort of data. And I
Yeah.
think that's really important that you have to have something to be able to look on back on and say, okay, well, I was doing this or doing that. And even if you don't track to the milligram or the gram, even
Right.
if you're just tracking your food in general, even if you're not a weigher and all of those things, it doesn't matter. But you have to have something that keeps you on track, right? So you're doing your diet or you're in your
Right.
calorie
Whatever.
deficit, right?
Right.
So whatever that is for you, having that data, you do have to go back and start looking at, well, when did my weight loss stop?
Right.
And what was I
What
doing when I
changed?
was the
Yeah.
most successful? What changed?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There can be so many different things. And I think this is really important. So, stress, physical activity. I know for me, that's something that I didn't account for all the way. Have you changed jobs? Have you changed exercises? Have you changed food? Maybe made a small adjustment that you didn't really think of that was a big deal. Looking back, all of these small things may seem like nothing at the time, but when you then are looking at weight loss, which can just be science, right? It's just the
Right.
calorie surplus or, the deficit. There somewhere along that line, there could be one small thing that can throw you off.
Right.
Um, and now, once again, we're talking about a plateau. This is not something that lasts 1, 2, 3, even 4 weeks. I wouldn't even consider that now
Right.
from
Right.
what I've been through. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about usually more than a month, I would say. That's my personal opinion. If it's
Yeah.
been more than a month or two, and you think you have changed nothing, like everything is the same, you went from weight loss, weight loss, weight loss to nothing is happening.
Right.
I would signify after several weeks to a month or two that yeah, that's probably a plateau.
This is where the honesty has to come in, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really haven't changed a thing and it's happened, something else is going on. But if you're honest with yourself and you know if you've been sticking with it, you know if you've gone off, you know what I'm saying? You know if you've gotten less.
Yeah,
That's
if you were
important.
tracking your food, but then you go back to the kitchen and you grab another scoop of peanut butter,
Right. So I just wanted to
right?
add
And that's
that.
not in your tracker, right?
Right. Right.
We know, when we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. And we also know when we've made purposeful changes or accidental changes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like I said, going back for that snack where you're like, oh, I only had a handful of nuts. Really, it was 2 servings. You didn't weigh it. You have no
Right.
idea. Now you're over 400 calories.
Yeah. And
It's
that
it's
adds
so
up.
easy. There's small snacks like that. The one thing about keto is that our food is calorie dense. Because we
Yeah.
eat all the good fats and all the good food, it doesn't take much to go over. And all of a
Right.
sudden, one handful of nuts is 400 calories. And you're like, dang, that was my
Dang it.
whole, yeah, that was
Right.
my
That's a whole
whole,
meal
right. And that adds up
allowance.
if you do that every day or if you're, into your budget. To your point, being really honest about what's going on with yourself, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So there's,
Right.
there's a check-in, right? Do I know what this is? Is there maybe something right off the top of the list that you can just, yep, I know what it is. It's the trip to the pantry at
Right.
8 p.m. It's when I'm making my lunch for the next day and I have a bite of this and I have a bite of that.
Yeah.
If you really single your actions and your behaviors out and say, this is my routine and this is what I do I go outside of that? A lot of times it's found in your daily routine,
Yeah.
something that we're
Yeah.
currently doing that we're
Logic.
adding in
Right.
or we're not accounting for that can contribute to this situation. So for me and my plateau, I really noticed it after I stopped doing ADF and I did that. That was never meant to be permanent for me. You and I actually both did
Yeah.
this
Just
in
one.
October.
Mm-hmm.
We experimented with it. We wanted to see, we'd heard a lot about it. It was very popular in our community at the time, and a lot of people were having great success. And we're like, hey, let's give this a go. This sounds different. I haven't heard of this. So we did that. I had good success with that in October. But then it's like, here things really kind of close down. So it gets cold, it gets dark. I know that in, November, December, January, we have the least amount of light for the day. And I know I'm just physically not as active. It is very cold, it's rainy, it's nasty. But the
Yeah.
biggest thing, I did get COVID in December and was pretty much out of commission for about 3 weeks.
Right.
And that really just threw my metabolism way off. I didn't eat for several days and I got extremely low, but then I had loss of smell and taste that has been, still going on to this day.
You didn't
And
get to exercise like you were doing. You had been
yeah,
very
I didn't get,
consistent.
yeah, and I had been really consistent in October. I did 4 workouts a week and I pretty much stick with that. And I did make some changes in the summer. I'd started doing a little bit more weightlifting, which I've really amped up now. And I think that that has a lot to do with the changes I've made now. So I actually, because you sent me a video from a girl on TikTok
Oh,
who
it's the
had
pharmacist.
the
Oh, I
pharmacy,
love
yeah.
her. She's so good.
So she was like, "Hey, if you're having I felt like, you and I had talked and I just felt like after I got COVID, I lost my smell and taste and I had a really hard time with like my brain craving everything in the world but not being able to satisfy those cravings. So I didn't really know I didn't go off keto, but my food was kind of all over the place and I was like snacking here and there because I was like trying to see if I could taste anything,
Yeah.
smell anything. It was like constant. Um and so I was really not well for almost a month. I didn't really work out until I really, really was much better. And so I was still like you, eating around the same amount of calories and not moving. So my scale was literally just kind of going through the
Right.
same 3 to 5 pounds. I mean,
Same.
exactly. You
Mm-hmm.
see my, my scale, it literally is like up and down, up and down, up and down, but just the same amount, nothing crazy, no crazy spikes, nothing.
Yeah.
So
Same here.
that's
Same
when you
here.
sent,
Yeah.
yeah, and just the same thing. So that's when I knew this goes on for months. This happens with everybody. That's why we're making this whole episode, right?
Right. Right.
At some point, you do the diet so well, your body's like, got this. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
literally, your body, it's like lifting weights. If you lift the same exact weights in the gym every single day forever,
Yeah. You
your body
can't.
stops responding to that. The exertion is no longer what it was when you started.
Right.
Your body gets very metabolically comfortable with the foods you're eating, with the style of eating that you have, with your movement, and gets used to being in this zone, especially if you're doing now. I've been doing this for almost 2 years now. My
Mm-hmm.
body is very comfortable with
Right.
the calories, with the food. Like it's gotten very routine.
Very used to
And
it.
I
Right.
think that was a nice shock. And so if you've been doing this a long time, I definitely suggest trying this out. 70% protein, 25% fat, 5% carbs.
Yeah.
That is the complete opposite, right? As far
Yeah.
as the keto goes. So it's really normally 70%
And it wasn't easy
fat.
at first, was it?
No, and
Right.
25%
You were
protein and
not
then
used to
5%
that.
carbs.
And your body's
When
like,
I
what
first
the?
started, I messaged you because I was like, I don't think I can do
You said you were
this. It's
so
so
full from all that
it
protein.
yeah, and so I ended up eating a lot less calories. It reminds me of ADF. If you haven't heard of that, it's alternate day fasting. Definitely look it up. It's a really cool
And that could be
kind of
another
way to
way to
eat.
break, since we're talking about plateau, like that could be another way to break up a plateau. I know what
Definitely.
ADF for me opened up the idea of calorie cycling. That's what I took
Mhm.
away from it. So instead of having to do the same calorie deficit every day, instead I've since then looked at the weekly calorie deficit.
Right. And you can look at, instead of it being daily, you can look at it weekly, you can look at it monthly and have like
Hmm.
these targets, whereas you're just going day to day to day. And it's like, is
Yeah.
it working? Is it working?
And sometimes your body, like you said, your body is just like, dude, I'm
It's
done.
very
Like this is
comfortable.
boring.
Yeah, like I
Right.
know what you're gonna
Shake
eat
me up a little.
today.
Right,
Right. And
right.
when you eat those macros every single day, those 70, 25, 5 every single day, your metabolism adjusts according to
Yeah.
what you're eating. And if that behavior is consistent enough, you're going to hit a spot at some point where your body's like, oh, we got this.
We're done.
So
Yeah.
so that's where, looking at doing some of these other things, some people do things like egg fast, some
Yeah.
people are do the ADF alternate day fasting. Some people just do I've seen just they do fasts in general, broth or
Yeah. I've
just
seen that.
coffee tea, intermittent fasting. Some people do OMAD, which is a style of eating that I pretty much do a lot of the time. Not every single day of every week or every month, but I do it. It's a natural way of eating for me is one meal a day. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're not doing that, that's a nice way. Have a larger meal in the middle of the day or maybe a snack with it. There's so many things that you can do to break up that monotony that your body's experiencing that may be creating that plateau if it's not coming from your nutrition.
Right. Because first
So
and
these would be
foremost,
things exactly.
make your track, like check your tracking, check what you've been doing. If you're not tracking, and like Ashley said earlier about eating the extra handful of nuts, those things do add up. So if it's not that, then perhaps maybe a fast or try the OMAD or do the egg fast. Or another suggestion is even cutting back more on carbs is one
Yeah, and that's
suggestion.
something that I definitely that you see this that people will go carnivore.
That
They'll
is
do
something.
carnivore for a couple days
Yeah,
or
and
and
we
we're
don't
not
mean like
talking
for
about
good. We're just talking about
no.
just to like break you, to shake it up. I guess just shaking it up. We're going to call it shaking it up. It just kind of
Shaking it up.
shakes it
It's
up.
the and so there's some things here. This should not be super, super, super uncomfortable. You should not be miserable because remember, we're on a lifestyle. We're not on a diet journey, right? We're not on the diet to start and stop. And a lot of times that's going to pull you out of your lifestyle if you're doing things that you really don't like. And if you really, really don't like them, I'm not going to suggest to do it, right? So make
Right.
sure it's something that you're going to enjoy. For me, I don't eat eggs, which is it's so weird. So egg fast is never going to, your girl will never be doing that.
Isn't that crazy?
Carnivore, there are days that I accidentally do
Yeah,
carnivore
yeah.
because I want a steak and I want, you know, some bacon
Sausage
or
and
some or a
bacon.
sausage or
Well,
whatever it
some
is.
some other things that are suggested, and this is something just more water, um,
Yes, more sleep, more water. We can talk about self-care items
sleep,
here.
water. They also talk about intermittent fasting, avoiding alcohol for a little bit. Like all these things that your
Yeah, if you're
body has.
drinking, that can stall your weight loss for sure.
Yeah. And then activity, amping up your activity, which is what I had to do. And that has worked for me. So that's helped a lot. And then the other thing, as well as they talk about eating more vegetables in your meals and spreading out your protein. Like these are just different
Yeah,
suggestions.
you can, I'm a big fan of if you really are having a problem, drop the products out of your diet.
Oh,
If
yes,
you're
that's a big
eating,
thing.
so if you're eating dirty keto even or
Yes. Do
lazy
some
keto, whatever you
clean
want to
keto
call
for
it,
a
right?
week. Right.
Pull some of the products that you're eating out or some of the items, the packaged items out. This is one of my favorite things to do is say, okay, I'm pulling the packaged stuff. I'm going to go back and all my carbs are going to come from fruits and vegetables.
Right.
This will really tell you what's going on because you'll know, if maybe you've let a little of that slide or maybe you're not tracking it. And this is where it gets a little bit iffy because if you're doing a more relaxed style of keto and you're not weighing and tracking, this is a pretty good way to find out if it's really the behaviors, right? So it's just like
Right.
maybe it's two tortillas instead of one. Maybe it's, too many slices of bread. Maybe it's that you are becoming more sensitive to almond flour or sucralose, or there's a lot of things that can cause your body to stop responding the way it was. And you've just got to go into investigation mode. You've got
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
decide,
That's really
okay,
it.
I got
You
to
got to
figure
figure
this
it out.
out.
Yeah.
And nobody, secret time, nobody can tell you what it is, really,
Mm-mm.
truly.
No, you have to
Only you
go
know.
through the different. It's like people talk about the elimination diet. You have to eliminate what it could be that's caused the issue. Now, let me throw this in here because I forgot to mention this. Back at the beginning of this year, I started having symptoms. Actually, they started last year, but it's gotten more of menopause. I'm
Hmm.
47 years old, and so I'm reaching that point of time. So hormones can also play a part if you have a plateau. Like that actually can as well. And that's where I read about I needed to make sure I was having more activity and more of a calorie deficit. And there's the argument of calorie deficit, that that's not everything. Well, everybody's different. Again, everybody's different. And calorie deficit does matter. For someone who's 47 years old and has menopause, premenopause, menopause, calories are very important.
Yeah.
And keto is very highly recommended for women, by the way, who are going into menopause. I've read so much about menopause in the last few months. I never knew I was going to reach this point in time. Just didn't think about it. And I'm here. And
You were just
activity,
enjoying life,
I was. And then all of a sudden, it's like,
till you
what?
weren't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
What?
kidding. No. Yeah.
So I just want to say, so like we talked about just now, with the logical things, the tracking, the extra, extra nuts, the not drinking enough water, not getting the sleep, like things like that. But then there's another, which is menopause, hormones, age, like these things come into play.
This is a great place to look at some of our mental health aspects as well.
Yeah.
So we talk about sleep, we talk about water, we talk about hormones, we talk about all those things. You've got to really consider what is going on in your life. Do you
Yeah.
have outside influence that is creating stress? Cortisol levels can create plateaus
Yeah.
and can also botch your metabolism. When those levels are high, it can create hunger. It can create all kinds of other symptoms that are going on that can make us emotionally eat. The hormones can also do that. There's just
Yeah.
so many things, right? So we really
Right.
have to be in tune with ourselves. We have to check in. We've got to have that inner dialogue and that self reflection and say, okay, has something been going on? Am I going back to the kitchen because I'm upset about something? Have I noticed that I've been a little lax because I'm actually stressed out, or
Right.
I'm
Right.
having anxiety, or I'm actually, fighting some depression? And I can wave my hand here and say, your girl gets it, because,
Yeah.
you've got to be really present
So
in
awareness is
your
a big
journey.
thing. Self-awareness, so important.
It's so important and it's so underutilized that
Yes.
being able to understand how you're thinking, why you're making the choices you are, why you're in the position you are, or at least wanting to learn why or reflect why, is it's worth everything.
It is so
It's
worth
so
everything. And
important.
you are so worth that time and that investment.
And just remember, a plateau is a signal of prior success that has been paused.
Yes.
You
Yes.
had success. You cannot get to a plateau unless you had success prior.
Right. Plateau's not failing. It's not
No,
failing.
that means pausing.
Oh, love that.
If you change your mindset around the obstacle in front of you, you can get rid of the obstacle,
Yeah.
which is a lot of times yourself.
It
So if you can
so
change your
is.
mindset, if you can reflect on what you're doing, if you can say, you know what, I know what it is. I know it's frustrating, blah, 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 but I refuse to see it like this right now. What I'm going to say is, you know what? This means your girl got far, or
Yeah.
she lost X amount of weight. And guess what? We have to
We have
pause.
to pause.
I
Yeah. I
always
love
bring
that.
back that metaphor of, like, you're standing in the road and you have two choices. You go left, you go right, or maybe you have three or four choices, right? But there's a moment where you have to decide which way you go.
Yeah.
You can either harp on the fact that you're not seeing the movement that you want to see and things aren't going your way, or you can say, this is a sign that I have been successful up until this moment. And now I got to look and see, how do I get that back?
Yes.
Turn all of that negativity into positivity and it will fuel you instead of burning you.
Oh, you are so good with your yes, girl. You are so
Okay.
that was good.
God.
Yes. That's it. Like we always say, and we will continue to say, mindset is everything. Mindset is everything. And it's always a choice. We always have a choice. What are we choosing?
Exactly. You're not stuck. You can figure this out. You can, if you want to move forward and you want to have that success like you already have. Remember, you already have it. It was yours.
Yes.
You can figure this out. Be that investigator, put your hat on and find out what it is, because you can,
Yes.
100%.
You can. You absolutely can.
So thank you for joining us today. We hope that if you're having a plateau, maybe some of this will help you
Oh,
out.
yeah,
And
yeah.
if you are new on your journey, maybe you can anticipate some of this.
That's always our hope, is that whatever it is we're delivering, you'll either relate to it now or you'll be prepared for the future if and
Yes.
when it comes about. So we're so glad that y'all joined us for this one. And in
Can't
2 weeks,
believe
what's happening? 2 weeks from now
it's our very last episode
of
of
season
season
one,
one.
just of season one, we're going to have season two.
I'm
Don't
so
fret,
excited.
darling. Don't fret.
It's so exciting. It
It is
really is. I can't believe
exciting.
it's gone by so fast.
I know. I mean, it's been amazing, though. Hasn't
It
it been
has been
amazing?
amazing.
I have loved every minute,
Me
And
too.
I'm looking forward to season 2. We have to get
Me
started
too.
on that. Get us some guests. So we'll see you next time.
For the very last episode. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
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 Thanks for joining us today. You can find and connect with us over on Instagram at More Than Just Keto. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss out on the fun. We'll see you next time.